Blair, president of the Langley Legion Branch 21, Freeman of the city. So I want to thank all of you for attending tonight and honoring the volunteers who do so much for the Langleys. But especially, as I say, I would really just like to thank the city of Langley for doing something so special for the volunteers who are out there in the community. My background is that I grew up in Oliver, in the southern Okanagan. I've been married for 47 years. I have 2 children and I have 4 grandchildren. My dad died when I was 7 months old. My sisters at that time were aged 4 and 7. My mom never remarried. My mom and my sisters were all very positive influences in my life, and I was lucky that over the years there were many important male role models in my life. The one who stands out the most for me was my Uncle John. Uncle John lived in Merritt. He was quite far away, obviously in another town, but he would invite me to his house in the summertime or maybe at Easter break, and he'd spend time with me. He'd take me to work with him, and he would show me off. He was always proud of me, and he really cared about me. I really believe he's the reason I became a big brother. I wanted to be able to do something for someone that he did. Wanted to do something for someone that he had done for me. So in this room, we have so many people who volunteer, so why do we do it? Now, many of the things that I had written down have already been said, but I think for most of us, our reasons are a little bit different, but it's probably that we do want to make a difference. We want to give back to the community and to others in our own way. I first applied to be a big brother when I was 20 years of age. I was married, I was attending university, and I wasn't sure what my future was going to be, and I couldn't in good conscience make the 2-year commitment that was being asked for by Big Brothers Big Sisters of Vancouver. I became a big brother after I started teaching in Langley. When I was about 30 years of age, I was a vice principal in the district, Langley School District, and I attended a workshop where the person who was doing the presenting had us do a board of directors of our lives, and it's something I would encourage each and every one of you to do. The idea being that you have a table, you have a piece of paper in front of you, and you have a boardroom table, and you have chairs or marks that would indicate chairs sitting at that table. And what he told us was that that boardroom represented our lives. And the people sitting around that boardroom were the people who've played a significant role in our life. He told us that generally speaking, you will have 12 to 16 people who are sitting there. And typically, each person in our room would have 3 to 4 family members and 3 to 4 teachers. Now, as a principal, I used to use this exercise as a professional development tool with my staffs to help teachers understand how important their role is in the students' lives. After the workshop, I wrote or spoke to all of the directors on my list, told them what they had done for me, and most of them would never have known the influence that they'd had in my life. My Uncle John got a letter from me. A few years later, my Uncle John's wife, Aunt Mina, told me he kept that letter in his wallet, and he would show it to any of his friends, or in fact, anyone who was going by who would listen to him and read it. It meant that much to him. I only mention this because we have no idea how big a difference our actions can make in the lives of others. Our volunteering is important, but we can never truly know the impact that it has. When I became a big brother, the Langley agency was only a few years old. It was just a Big Brothers agency at the time, and all the board members were bigs, meaning big brothers. When I first joined, I'd attend a board meeting, and all these old guys would be sitting around telling stories about their littles. Now, these guys probably weren't even 40 years of age, but you know what? When you're younger, you got a different perspective. So I decided I'd run for president, because if I was president, then I could run the meetings and they'd be run far more efficiently, and we wouldn't be wasting all this time. Now, it's fair to say that at that time, I didn't understand the importance that the littles were playing in the bigs' lives. I've learned a lot since then. I could spend hours telling you about my 13 matches, but I won't. Everyone has strengths. As a big, you need to develop a relationship with your little and get him to try things so that he can learn what these strengths look like. 3 of my former littles have been golfing in the Big Brothers tournament, Big Brothers Big Sisters golf tournament for a number of years. I attended each of their weddings. 3 years ago, the four of us were guest speakers at the golf tournament. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about each one of these guys. The first is Jerry. He was my first little brother. Jerry has 2 sons. He's going to be 50 next month. And last year he became a grandfather. Jerry and I were matched when he was 10. At the time, it was my understanding that the big and little were expected to spend 4 hours a week together, all year long. At that time, the matches ended when the little turned 16. Jerry and I spent 6 years together, and it felt like he was a member of the family. When we were matched, Jerry and I spent a weekend camping and fishing with my Uncle John in Merritt. It's a very special memory to me. Jerry's only a few years older than my own kids, and they really liked him. After he agreed to speak at the golf tournament, he told me public speaking is the last thing he would ever want to do, but he'd do it for me. I felt honored. Rich is my third little brother. He's now in his 40s, and he runs ultra marathons. 2 years ago, he competed in the Fat Dog. Now, if you don't know about this, please take the time to Google it. It's a 120-mile run. It begins in the Ashenola Valley. They go up to the Cathedral Lakes. They come back down to the valley. They go up the other side. They continue on to the Skagit. And eventually it ends at Manning Park. Now look at, that's almost 5 marathons. And the change in elevation is just incredible. Anyway, he ran it in under 36 hours. He had the special belt buckle that he proudly showed to us after he had done it. It's an amazing achievement. On our last evening that Rich and I spent together as a match, I was driving him home and he said, "Rob, are you going to get matched again? Because it's really important that you do." During his speech at the Big Brothers Big Sisters golf tournament, he said that if it had not been for our match, he would have ended up in jail. Rich is coming to visit us in a couple of weeks after doing one of his ultra marathons, and we're looking forward to seeing him. Justin was my 7th match. He's now in his early 30s. He and I did lots of fly fishing together, and he is now an avid golfer, has often pointed out to me that it's an extremely expensive sport. Both of them are extremely expensive, but he still has a scorecard that he got the first time he beat me when we were playing par 3 golf at the Meridian Golf Course. When Justin was 16 and learning to drive, we would take my truck, which was a standard shift, and we would drive the back roads of Langley. He learned very quickly. He was a good driver. On one of our outings, we decided to go up to Oliver to pick up some furniture from my mom's house. While we were there, we had made plans to go fishing. I had 2 lakes in mind and suggested we could go to either one and Justin could drive. He asked me about the lakes, so being the dedicated fisher that I am, I said, "Well, Justin, one lake has bigger fish, but they're harder to catch. And the other lake has smaller fish, but they're much easier to catch." And he listened politely and said, "Yeah, Rob, but I'm driving. Which one's farther away? I want to go to that one." During their talks, all 3 of these littles recognized my wife, Joan, as being an important part of their lives. I had one little brother who loved to go to movies. We were only matched for a short period of time. He had serious health issues and eventually had to move to Arizona. So going back to the movies, his favorite movies were scary ones. You know what, I don't know about you guys, but I do not enjoy scary movies. Like, why anybody would want to see them, I don't understand that, but that's what he wanted to do, so I was okay with that. So the memory I want to share was, I phoned him up, asked him where the movie was playing and what time and what was the name. He told me. I didn't recognize the name. I asked if it was a scary movie. He absolutely assured me it was not a scary movie. So we go into the movie, we sit down, I finally get to the movie itself, and I look at the screen. It's nighttime. There's a full moon. We got blackbirds, maybe ravens flying in the sky. There's fog. There's a graveyard. There's a character dressed in black. I turned to him and I said, "David, you told me this wasn't scary." He had a huge smile on his face and he said, "Rob, it might be a little scary." My current little brother is 16. His name is Yunjae. He has a job working at a restaurant for 2 or 3 days each week. In addition to going to high school, grade 11, he plays rugby, he plays ice hockey, ball hockey. He's on a football team. In fact, his football team won the provincial championship for Langley. I gotta tell you, it's hard to fit into his schedule. Yunjae and I got matched when he was 13. I took him to the driving range of a precursor to golf. I had 2 sets of clubs for him because he wasn't sure if he was going to play right-handed or left-handed. After hitting the balls with both sets of clubs, he wasn't completely sure, but he decided he'd try left-handed. So we started off on par 3 courses, and eventually we moved on to a full golf course last spring. So last fall, we're on this par 5 course. We're on this golf course, and we're on a par 5. Now, for those of you who don't golf, I'm sorry, this might not have meaning to you, but for those of you who do golf, hopefully you can appreciate it. So we're on a par 5. He's about 175 yards from the green. I get my GPS out and I check, and that's a long way because in front of him, he's got a creek to go over and he's got an extremely tall tree. I don't think he can hit a ball that far, but he pulls a club out of his bag and he gets ready to hit. And I said, Yunjay, what club do you have? And he said, my 8-iron. I said, Yunjay, it's 175 yards. I can't, and it's up and over the tree on top of that. I can't hit the ball that far. He's Rob, I think I got the right club. So he takes this effortless swing that I just envy, gets under the ball goes up over the tree and lands pin high just off the green. Phenomenal shot. So I have to wonder at times, like, how long should I be a big brother? When I started as a big brother, like I'm kind of like a big grandfather now, but when I started as a big brother, the mothers of the littles were older than me, and the littles were older than my children. Then, the littles were younger than my children, and I was becoming older than the mothers. It's now reached the point where my elder daughter is older than than 2 of my last 3 mums of the littles. And my last 2 littles are younger than my eldest grandchild. I say this and then I think of what happened just this past spring. Yunji and I went up fly fishing, took our float tubes up to Harrison for cutthroat trout. It's a beautiful day, we're floating around on the lake, and both of us were catching fish. And you know, I am so lucky to have him in my life, and what a great match we have together. So each of you in this room are giving to the community, but what are you getting back? You may not even know, but I bet you take great pride in what you do, and I bet you know that it's making a difference for the community. I also bet that you share stories of what you do with friends and family. It is somewhat like what I have done with somewhat like what I have just done and what those old big brothers were doing when I met them 35 years ago. They were sharing those stories because they were proud of their littles. Those littles were having a very positive impact on their lives. By being a volunteer, you're doing something that has the potential to make a difference in someone's life, and I believe it'll also make a difference in yours. Thank you for what you're doing and your willingness to be there for others. Thank you again to Mayor Schaefer and to the City Council for the honor you have given to me this evening.
Thank you. That was very inspirational. 40 years. Oh. We have one of the coveted City of Langley swag bags for you. Yeah, that's